And hello, good morning, bookworms. This is your magpie. We are starting a new book, you guys. It is Persuasion, and I know I left the announcement towards, a little later in the week. A little later than I had hoped for. I said that I was thinking of doing like a lighter kind of book between Jane Eyre and Persuasion. But as some of you on Twitter might have realized, I tweeted something. And on Discord, the conversation was a little bit longer. But I attempted to make an ebook out of the book I wanted to read, but it's out of print. It's not on electric. Nobody has transcribed it to electric form. So I'm going to have to make it myself. That's going to take me a little bit of time because I'm going to have to scan or photograph every single page. And it's not a short book. So I'll leave the announcement for that one later. But right now we are going to start Persuasion, I was always going to read this book anyway. But again, I just wanted to have a little break between Jane Eyre and this one, just because it's a little like tonally similar. A little, somewhat. But anyway, it doesn't matter because this is a great book. One of my favorites by Jane Austen, you guys, who wrote, in case you haven't heard of it, that book, in case you didn't know, she wrote Pride and Prejudice, she wrote Emma, Mansfield Park, Northanger Abbey, Persuasion. She wrote a whole bunch of classics. So if you are into like romantic historical era dramas, then you will have heard of her at least once. So Persuasion is one of her kind of like, it was the last book she wrote, and it's considered her most mature work, and it's one of my favorites simply because it just has a very interesting vibe that I hope you guys enjoy when we read it. But before we delve into it and what it's about, I haven't forgotten you guys. We do have Early Gang and we do have several bookworms here. So let me just say hello. So let's see, Crusher, you are the first one on the list on the Early Gang. Crusher says, it took a lot of persuasion to come here early and leave this message. Nice. I see we're starting a trend and I love it. All you bookworms, I dare you to use persuasion in the next couple of sentences. So welcome, Crusher, and good job on being the first one listed on the chat. That's not to say that I didn't read Teal's comment. Teal, I believe I saw your comment sometime late last night, but again, YouTube doing what YouTube does. I think it might have deleted your comment, and for that I am most sad. But just know that I did read it, and I do recognize that you were there. You were there. You were there. So I hope you feel validated, seen, beloved. All right. Also, we have Noodles Dumplings Kimchi, who is also part of the Early Gang. Says, hey, fellow bookworms. I can't believe I'm actually part of the Early Gang. Can't wait for another live. Yay. I'm glad that you're here. Thank you for showing your support. It always makes me a little nervous when I start a new book, because I'm like, how many people are going to be here? Are they like, so just my anxiety. I'm always anxious, so I suffer a little bit from just like overthinking things. So thank you. Like, Early Gang comments really make my day. Well, all comments make my day, but Early Gang just let me know that there's people seeing it, that it's not private, that it's not unlisted. Because I have done that. One time I went live and I listed the stream as gonna happen, but it was unlisted, you guys. It was unlisted. So like only the people that had been on the Discord or in the or were on my X where I had posted the links to the live, they were the only ones that were able to join. And later on I was like, I think sometime just before the live started, I was like, oh dang, like this is unlisted. No wonder there's nobody here. Anyway, Let's see. Also, we have Little Butterfly. Hello. Says, I have already made up my mind to be here and nothing can persuade me otherwise. Bravo, Little Butterfly. Look at you. Teal says, I persuaded myself to wake up for this, and so here I am. No early gang, early birds, early birds. Yes, indeed, the early birds. We are here. Good to see you, early birds. Gosh, I missed you. We did not have a read along on not on Wednesday, on Friday. Well, did we have a read along on Wednesday? We did not. We did not have a read along on Wednesday or Friday. The Wednesday was because we had a watch party of Jane Eyre over on my server. If you're not a Ko-fi member, I made an exception just this once, and I did a temporary invite just so anybody who's on YouTube who follows me would be able to enjoy this experience. Now, I did have some guests join in, so I do remember there was Blockstrot for sure was there. Hey, by the way, Blockstrot is there. So I hope you enjoyed it. Maybe we'll do this again. Who knows? We'll see. So anyway, happy to see you. And I did miss you guys. By the way, holiday weekend. How was your holiday weekend? At least for American peeps. Did you enjoy it? Honestly, here I was in my little apartment, closed all the doors, all the windows, because it sounded like a war zone outside, you guys. And I know I shouldn't use that word lightly because there's actual people who are going through terrible things right now. So it just sounded kind of scary. There was just all over the place. It was non-stop boom, 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 like everywhere for like 5 hours, 6 hours, late into the night. 3 o'clock in the morning, it was silent finally, and it suddenly let out this huge firecracker that just, I think, woke everybody up. Even the car alarms were like going beep, beep, beep. So I don't know. People were just celebrating, and even during the weekend, intermittent fireworks, intermittent just firecrackers. People are doing their thing. They're enjoying their summer. So I'm thankful I don't have a dog or a kid or a kitty that are like, they actually they get really spooked, and that's why I don't really like fireworks, just because I feel for like all the little fur babies out there who get super freaked out from like all this. So anyway, I feel like I've been blabbing on a lot, you guys. But anyway, I will continue to say hello to early gang and to everybody else on the chat. Let's see. So Red Tempest says, let's have a celebration about this new persuasion. Yes, we are. Be merry. We meet again. We come back to you now at the turn of the tide. Gandalf. Nice quote. Red Tempest says, I was going to read Persuasion no matter what people say. Magpie, basically. Yeah, basically. I mean, I was going to read it. It was just a matter of when I was going to place it. Yeah, and I will read, like, eventually as time goes on. I think I probably will end up reading other books by Jane Eyre. Oh my gosh, you guys, other books by Jane Austen. By the way, you guys, it's gonna take a while for me to switch my brain from saying Jane Eyre to saying Jane Austen. Remember, Jane Eyre was the heroine, the protagonist of the last book we read. Jane Austen is the writer of this novel. Okay, so if I say by mistake Jane Eyre, when I should be saying Jane Austen, please excuse this, Magpie. I will try to fix this little bug in my brain that just can't make the switch. So I hope I can make the switch properly by the time this book ends, because this is a short book. This book is on the short end. So Jane Eyre was, like, I think Blockshot said it was about 35 hours worth of live stream. Yeah, this is going to be shorter, way shorter, so don't you worry. It might be even shorter or around the same length as The Blue Castle. Okay, so be on the lookout for when the next book announcement appears. Noodle Something's Kimchi says, let's be real, she's the founding mother of chick lit. Yes, indeed. Jane Austen is, yeah, I think she might have written what we would consider to be the first rom-com. At least that's what I feel in my limited experience of reading. I feel like before Pride and Prejudice, before Emma, before these books that she wrote, there wasn't really much of an emphasis on like rom-coms, like comment, like society, like commentary that's witty, but that ends in like happily ever after. So like there were romance books, but they just didn't have the same tone. So this is why we love Jane Austen. She was a trailblazer, literally speaking. Literary, in a literary sense. All right, so Kat Asterisk was saying, I was hoping you would choose this one, so thanks. I'm glad that you are enjoying our pick. I hope to do full justice to this one. And then, of course, we have to pick which Persuasion adaptation we're going to watch together. I think you guys might know which is the one that I lean towards. I have talked about it extensively, so we'll see. All right, so, but yeah, I like this book a lot too. And I'll tell you guys about how I ended up reading this book in a little bit, but let me just finish reading the comments. I was hoping okay. Tio says it was 2 a.m. or so. 2 a.m. your time. Yes. I actually stayed up late, you guys, because I was writing fanfic. Okay, so during like this entire holiday weekend, you guys, I love my family, but I had to socialize. I had to go out into the sun, the sea, and get some nice little tan. Like right now, I am delightfully tanned, you guys. This is beautiful. Like I have a beautiful glowing tan, arms, legs, backs, everything. I went to the beach. I went to a walk. It was so much fun. But in my brain, I was just turning over my fanfic and like the dialogues and stuff like that. So after everything was done on last night, after I came back home from going on a trip, and then helped wash the car, helped with laundry, got some dinner, and then just lay around home, and I just started typing like a crazy woman because I needed to get this chapter out. So if you are following my fanfic over on AO3 bookworm fanfic, it's A World Away, and I just completed it, and I completed it, like hit the publish button sometime around late 11 p.m. So I think that's around the time when I saw your comment, I think. So Teal, I saw it and I read it. So thank you for your support, even at that hour. All right, Noodles Dumplings Kimchi says, I was persuaded to take a break and listen to Magpie's voice. Why, thank you. I'm glad that you have joined me. I will be sure to enunciate everything to bring pleasure and delight to your ears. Red Tempest says, 2 a.m. I was awake till 4:30 a.m. for no reason. Dude, please sleep. Please sleep. Blockshot says, hello everyone here in the library. Hello Blockshot, happy to have seen you on Wednesday's watch party over on my server. Hope that you can join us the next time. Crusher says, Hex T America? I don't know if I read that properly, but yes, Crusher is definitely showing some patriotic spirit or something. Noodles Dumplings Kimchi says, I feel you on the fireworks. I liked them when I was younger, but now I'm more sensitive to sounds as I grow older. I like watching them on the screen, but in person, I need those noise sensitivity headphones. Oh, yes. Yes, for sure. You know what? It's like going to the beach. As children, we're like all about, oh wow, the sea, let's build sandcastles and do the things. And I would look at my cousins, they were like young adults, maybe like 20s. And I was like, what, 9, 8. And I was like, gosh, they're so boring. Why are they not excited? Here's like the sea and the sun. They should go into the water. They're adults. They can do whatever they want. And now I look back and I'm like, yeah, no, like it's a whole logistical nightmare going to the beach when it's super crowded. And so it's the same thing. Like as kids, we don't have to worry about logistics, or we don't have to like muster up so much energy to head on into the crowded areas to watch fireworks. It's not an issue. But now as adults, at least for me, it's like, since I'm the one planning it, I have to pack snacks for everybody, drinks, figure out maps and for best viewing location, go and stake out a place. If we're gonna watch fireworks at the beach, we have to go and stake a location next to a fire pit so that we can eat while we so it's a whole experience, you guys. As an adult, it's a drag sometimes, but as kids, you're just, mom and dad are planning everything. Mom has packed your snacks. It's awesome. Being a kid is awesome. Being an adult is nice too. But I do miss how some things are just not as exciting as they were. And yes, there's the noise sensitivity thing too. I'm with you on that, noodle dumplings kimchi. So just enjoy every part of your life. I hope you enjoy being a child, enjoy being a young adult. Life does its thing. So just be present, because you never know what's going to happen or how you're going to feel in a few years' time. And so if you didn't fully experience something, you probably are going to miss out. I don't know. Anyway, let's not wax more philosophical. It is 10:17. We've been at this for more than 15 minutes. I believe we have plenty of people now on this live, so we are ready to get started. How about, Red Tempest says, I can see my town fireworks from the front lawn. Lucky ducky. Ooh. I mean, if I look out, there's a bunch of trees around my house. And then the ones that would impede my view. And then most of the big, huge fireworks, they're along the beach. So I have to drive 5 minutes. And I get lazy because of parking. So, lucky you. All right, everybody, let's get this started. Persuasion. I promised you guys I would talk more about what this book is about. So in case you did not read the comment, or at least the description of this live, I am ready to read it out loud for you. So everybody, welcome to our newest read along, where we will follow our protagonist, Anne Elliot. She is the heroine in Jane Austen's final work called Persuasion. Now, she did write other books that just were not completed, so we don't know if this was really her final work or but it was one of her final completed works. So Persuasion was written by Jane Austen in 1816. Now, just to give you an idea, this was about 30 years before Jane Eyre was published. So the writing style is going to be significantly different than Jane Eyre. She has a totally different writing style, so don't expect what we had in Jane Eyre. Okay, just letting you know. It's the strength of Jane Austen, I believe, is in how you have to read between the lines to appreciate the quiet humor and the wit in it. So starting from the very first page, you get a series of events, and it's just a bunch of quirky, yet not crazy funny quirky characters, but they're just interesting characters, and the humor in her novels is derived from just the interactions and how they respond to society and what's going on around them. So be prepared for that. Just to we're gonna read this slowly. At least I'm gonna try to read this slowly so you can appreciate it. And also, this novel was written in 1816, published in 1818. It revolves around the themes of love, regret, and second chances. So, is there a happily ever after in this one? We'll have to see, because again, look at those themes, you guys. The story follows Anne Elliot, a young woman from an aristocratic family who, 8 years prior, was persuaded to break up her engagement to a naval officer named Frederick Wentworth due to his lack of fortune and status. Remember, she is the daughter of an aristocrat, and as an aristocrat, she has to marry somebody of good name and good status and good fortune. So, She was young. She engaged. She fell in love with some guy. The guy fell in love with her, and they got engaged. But she was told that no, it doesn't work. You have to break it up with him, and she did. Now, the story picks up 8 years after the engagement was broken, so we get to see like how has time changed them both. Okay, so years later, Wentworth returns as a successful and wealthy captain. Oh my goodness. As their paths cross again, Anne must navigate the complexities of her lingering feelings for Wentworth, because yes, it's been 8 years, but she still has feelings, and the societal pressures that once led her to reject him. Not once again, that led her to reject him. The novel beautifully explores the enduring power of love and courage it takes to follow one's heart despite societal expectations. So, how do you guys like gum apples? I think it's best that I just delve into the book. It's been a little bit of time, so let's just get into the book. And after we read the first chapter, maybe we'll do like a little bit of like, okay, how do you guys like let's see what you guys think so far of the first chapter. So again, first chapter is going to be a lot of exposition. Remember, Jane Eyre took 10 chapters for us to understand her past and her character. So the first chapters might not be like full of action, but they definitely are important to understand the conflicts, the society she lives in. So don't snooze on me, okay? Don't snooze on me. All right, let's do this. Persuasion. Persuasion. Chapter 1. Sir Walter Elliot of Kellynch Hall in Somersetshire was a man who, for his own amusement, never took up any book but the baronetage. There he found occupation for an idle hour, and consolation in a distressed one. There his faculties were roused into admiration and respect by contemplating the limited remnant of the earliest patents. There any unwelcome sensations arising from domestic affairs changed naturally into pity and contempt as he turned over the almost endless creations of the last century. And there, if every other leaf were powerless, he could read his own history with an interest which never failed. This was the page at which the favorite volume always opened. Elliot of Kellynch Hall. Walter Elliot, born March 1, 1760. Married July 15, 1784. Elizabeth, daughter of James Stevenson, Esquire, of South Park, in the county of Gloucester, by which lady, who died in 1800, he has issue Elizabeth, born June 1, 1785, Anne, born August 9, 1787, a stillborn son, November 5, 1789, Mary, born November 20th, 1791. Precisely such had the paragraph originally stood from the printer's hands, but Sir Walter had improved it by adding, for the information of himself and his family, these words after the date of Mary's birth. Married, December 16, 1810. Charles, son and heir of Charles Musgrove, Esquire of Uppercross, in the county of Somerset. And, by inserting most accurately the day of the month on which he had lost his wife. Then followed the history and rise of the ancient and respectable family in the usual terms. How it had been first settled in Cheshire, how mentioned in Dugdale, serving the office of High Sheriff, representing a borough in 3 successive parliaments, exertions of loyalty and dignity of baronet, and the first year of Charles II, with all the Marys and Elizabeths they had married, forming altogether 2 handsome 12mo pages, and concluding with the arms and motto, principal seat, Kellynch Hall, in the county of Somerset, and Sir Walter's handwriting again in this finale. Heir presumptive, William Walter Elliot, Esquire, great-grandson of the second Sir Walter. Vanity was the beginning and end of Sir Walter Elliot's character, vanity of person and of situation. He had been remarkably handsome in his youth, and at 54 was still a very fine man. Few women could think more of their personal appearance than he did, nor could the valet of any new-made lord be more delighted with the place he held in society. He considered the blessing of beauty as inferior only to the blessing of a baronetcy, and the Sir Walter Elliot, who united these gifts, was the constant object of his warmest respect and devotion. His good looks and rank had one fair claim on his attachment, since to them he must have owed a wife of very superior character to anything deserved by his own. Lady Elliot had been an excellent woman, sensible and amiable, whose judgment and conduct, if they might be pardoned the youthful infatuation which made her Lady Elliot, had never required indulgence afterwards. She had humoured, or softened, or concealed his failings, and promoted his real respectability for 17 years, and though not the very happiest being in the world herself, had found enough in her duties, her friends, and her children to attach her to life, and make it no matter of indifference to her when she was called on to quit them. 3 girls, the 2 eldest 16 and 14, was an awful legacy for a mother to bequeath, an awful charge rather to confide to the authority and guidance of a conceited, silly father. She had, however, one very intimate friend, a sensible, deserving woman who had been brought, by strong attachment to herself, to settle close by her, in the village of Kellynch, and on her kindness and advice Lady Elliot mainly relied for the best help and maintenance of the good principles and instruction which she had been anxiously giving her daughters. This friend and Sir Walter did not marry, whatever might have been anticipated on that head by their acquaintance. 13 years had passed away since Lady Elliot's death, and they were still near neighbours and intimate friends, and one remained a widower, the other a widow. That Lady Russell, of steady age and character, and extremely well provided for, should have no thought of a second marriage, needs no apology to the public, which is rather apt to be unreasonable discontented when a woman does marry again than when she does not. But Sir Walter's continuing in singleness requires explanation. Be it known then that Sir Walter, like a good father, having met with 1 or 2 private disappointments in very unreasonable applications, prided himself on remaining single for his dear daughter's sake. For one daughter, his eldest, he would really have given up anything, which he had not been very much tempted to do. Elizabeth had succeeded at 16 to all that was possible of her mother's rights and consequence, and being very handsome and very like himself, her influence had always been great, and they had gone on together most happily. His 2 other children were of very inferior value. Mary had acquired a little artificial importance by becoming Mrs. Charles Musgrove, but Anne, with an elegance of mind and sweetness of character, which must have placed her high with any people of real understanding, was nobody with either father or sister. Her word had no weight, her convenience was always to give way. She was only Anne. To Lady Russell, indeed, she was a most dear and highly valued goddaughter, favourite, and friend. Lady Russell loved them all, but it was only in Anne that she could fancy the mother to revive again. A few years before, Anne Elliot had been a very pretty girl, but her bloom had vanished early, and as even in its height her father had found little to admire in her, so totally different were her delicate features and mild dark eyes from his own? There could be nothing in them, now that she was faded and thin, to excite his esteem. He had never indulged much hope. He had now none of ever reading her name in any other page of his favorite work. All equality of alliance must rest with Elizabeth, for Mary had merely connected herself with an old country family of respectability and large fortune, and had therefore given all of the honor and received none. Elizabeth would, one day or other, marry suitably. It sometimes happens that a woman is handsomer at 29 than when she was 10 years before, and generally speaking, if there has been neither ill health nor anxiety, it is a time of life at which scarcely any charm is lost. It was so with Elizabeth, still the handsome Miss Elliot that she had begun to be at 13 years ago, and Sir Walter might be excused, therefore, in forgetting her age, or at least be deemed only half a fool for thinking himself and Elizabeth as blooming as ever, amidst the wreck of the good looks of everybody else, for he could plainly see how old all of the rest of his family and acquaintance were growing. Anne, haggard; Mary, coarse; every face in the neighborhood worsting, and the rapid increase of the crow's foot about Lady Russell's temples had long been a distress to him. Elizabeth did not quite equal her father in personal contentment. 13 years had seen her mistress of Kellynch Hall, presiding and directing with a self-possession and decision which could never have given the idea of her being younger than she was. For 13 years she had been doing the honors and laying down the domestic law at home, and leading the way to the chaise and four, and walking immediately after Lady Russell out of all the drawing-rooms and dining-rooms in the county. 13 winters' revolving frosts had seen her opening every ball of credit which a scanty neighborhood offered, and 13 springs shone their blossoms as she travelled up to London with her father for a few weeks' annual enjoyment of the great world. She had the remembrance of all this. She had the consciousness of being 29 to give her some regrets and some apprehensions. She was fully satisfied of being still quite as handsome as ever, but she felt her approach to the years of danger, and would have rejoiced to be certain of being properly solicited by baronet blood within the next 12-month or two. Then might she again take up the book of books with as much enjoyment as in her early youth. But now she liked it not. Always to be presented with the date of her own birth, and see no marriage follow but that of a younger sister, made the book an evil. And more than once, when her father had left it open on the table near her, had she closed it with averted eyes and pushed it away. She had had a disappointment, moreover, which that book, and especially the history of her own family, must ever present the remembrance of the heir presumptive, the very William Walter Elliot, Esquire, whose rights had been so generously supported by her father, had disappointed her. She had, while a very young girl, as soon as she had known him to be, in the event of her having no brother, the future baronet, meant to marry him, and her father had always meant that she should. He had not been known to them as a boy, but soon after Lady Elliot's death, Sir Walter had sought the acquaintance, and through his overtures had not been met with any warmth. He had persevered in seeking it, making allowance for the modest drawing back of youth, and in one of their spring excursions to London, when Elizabeth was in her first bloom, Mr. Elliot had been forced into the introduction. He was at that time a very young man, just engaged in the study of the law, and Elizabeth found him extremely agreeable, and every plan in his favor was confirmed. He was invited to Kellynch Hall. He was talked of and expected all the rest of the year, but he never came. The following spring he was again seen in town, found equally agreeable, again encouraged, invited, and expected, and again he did not come, and the next tidings were that he was married. Instead of pushing his fortune in the line marked out for the heir of the house of Elliot, He had purchased independence by uniting himself to a rich woman of inferior birth. Sir Walter had resented it. As the head of the house, he felt that he ought to have been consulted, especially after taking the young man so publicly by the hand. For they must have been seen together, he observed, once at Tattersall's and twice in the lobby of the House of Commons. His disapprobation was expressed, but apparently very little regarded. Mr. Elliot had attempted no apology, and shown himself as unsolicitous of being longer noticed by the family, as Sir Walter considered him unworthy of it. All acquaintance between them had ceased. This very awkward history of Mr. Elliot was still, after an interval of several years, felt with anger by Elizabeth, who had liked the man for himself and still more for being her father's heir, and whose strong family pride could see only in him a proper match for Sir Walter Elliot's eldest daughter. There was not a baronet from A to Z whom her feelings could have so willingly acknowledged as an equal. Yet so miserably had he conducted himself that though she was at this present time, the summer of 1814, wearing black ribbons for his wife, she could not admit him to be worth thinking of again. The disgrace of his first marriage might, perhaps, as there was no reason to suppose it perpetuated by offspring, have been got over, had he not done worse. But he had, as by the customary intervention of kind friends, they had been informed, spoken most disrespectfully of them all, most slightingly and contemptuously of the very blood he belonged to, and the honours which were hereafter to be his own. This could not be pardoned. Such were Elizabeth Elliot's sentiments and sensations, such the cares to alloy, the agitations to vary, the sameness and the elegance, the prosperity and the nothingness of her scene of life, such the feelings to give interest to a long uneventful residence in one country circle, to fill the vacancies which were no habits of utility abroad, no talents of accomplishments for home to occupy. But now, another occupation and solicitude of mind was beginning to be added to these. Her father was growing distressed for money. She knew that when he now took up the baronetage, it was to drive the heavy bills of his tradespeople and the unwelcome hints of Mr. Shepherd, his agent, from his thoughts. The Kellynch property was good, but not equal to Sir Walter's apprehension of the state required in its possessor. While Lady Elliot lived, there had been method, moderation, and economy, which had just kept him within his income. But with her had died all such right-mindedness, and from that period he had been constantly exceeding it. It had not been possible for him to spend less. He had done nothing but what Sir Walter Elliot was imperiously called on to do. But, blameless as he was not only growing dreadfully in debt, but was hearing of it so often that it became vain to attempt concealing it longer, even partially, from his daughter. He had given her some hints of it in the last spring in town. He had gone so far as to even say, "Can we retrench? Does it occur to you that there is any one article in which we can retrench?" And Elizabeth, to do her justice, had, in the first ardor of female alarm, set seriously to think of what could be done, and had finally proposed these two branches of economy: to cut off some unnecessary charities, and to refrain from new furnishing the drawing-room, to which expedients she afterwards added the happy thought of their taking no present down to Anne, as had been the usual yearly custom. But these measures, however good in themselves, were insufficient for the real extent of the evil, the whole of which Sir Walter found himself obliged to confess to her soon afterwards. Elizabeth had nothing to propose of deeper efficacy. She felt herself ill-used and unfortunate, as did her father, and they were neither of them able to devise any means of lessening their expenses without compromising their dignity, or relinquishing their comforts in a way not to be borne. There was only a small part of his estate that Sir Walter could dispose of, but had every acre been alienable, it would have made no difference. He had condescended to mortgage as far as he had the power, but he would never condescend to sell. No, he would never disgrace his name so far. The Kellynch estate should be transmitted whole and entire as he had received it. Their two confidential friends, Mr. Shepherd, who lived in the neighboring market town, and Lady Russell, were called on to advise them, and both father and daughter seemed to expect that something should be struck out by one or the other to remove their embarrassments and reduce their expenditure without involving the loss of any indulgence of taste or pride. End of chapter. All right, so let us talk about what we just read. I hope you guys caught on to like what's happening here. But before that, let's see. I saw some people commenting as I read. We have 10 people watching. Hurrah! I don't know how many people are watching right now. I don't have the screen in front of me right now. But anyway, welcome to all of you. 10, 1, 15, 1,000. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're reading Persuasion. Now, just burning some time in case some people are trying to catch this. If they got here late, they can watch it in double speed to catch up. So, and I need a water break. So, let's talk about what we read. Oh wait, but let me just finish reading the comments. Hey everyone, says Noodles Dumplings Kimchi. Please leave a like for this live. Never forget we must support our magpie. Thank you, thank you. Yes, please like, share, subscribe. Do all the things. I highly appreciate your support. So, hello, Time Lord Boy. I do believe this is your first time commenting on this live chat, so happy to see you here. Welcome. Hope you enjoy my reading of Persuasion. Red Tempest, however, had to bounce. Says, bye everyone, I'm being called away. We'll have to catch the rewatch. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and thank you for joining me. We'll see you in the next one. Blockshot says, bye, have fun with the rewatch. And Time Lord Boy says, being rich back then sounds not too bad. Yes, we will talk about this. Noodles Dumplings Kimchi says, in whatever time, having money is infinitely easier. Oh yes. So, do you guys remember about like, in Jane Eyre, how we were talking about like £20,000, £5,000, and all this stuff, income? Well, so again, this is the upper class. These people did not work. They did not run businesses. They just invested money and lived off the dividends of their of their investments, I suppose. So let's say you live in a fixed income, right? If you're like living on Social Security, you have to be very smart about how you spend your fixed income. In the same way, even if you are a rich person, and you also have to be smart about your money and how you spend it, because like, you have properties, you have obligations, you have staff you have to pay out of this income. So Sir Walter Elliot, he is a baron. He doesn't have male heirs. He only has 3 daughters. The person that his title, when he dies, his title and his property is going to be passed down to the next Elliot, which is what's his name? William Elliot, I think it was. Yeah, so his nephew. But anyway, so that's I guess a different conversation. But anyway, so Sir Walter Elliot has a huge house, has an estate, has property, but he is exceeding his budget every single month. So even though he's rich, he's being wasteful, he is not being responsible with his budget. And we know why, you guys. It says here in the very first chapter that vanity was the beginning and end of his character. He is so self-absorbed that he expects to live the fine life. He takes great offense at having to be in debt and to be reminded that he has bills to pay. He's like, how dare you remind me, butchers, that or like whoever, all his people that he hires, how dare you remind me that I owe you money for this, for all these goods and services. So he's incredibly unreasonable, of course. His daughter, Elizabeth, this eldest daughter, is very much like him, very vain, very beautiful. She is basically has taken over her mother's role at home. When the mother was alive, she was a very sensible woman. She kept everybody on budget, so things were good. Mom dies, Elizabeth takes over. Elizabeth is just like her father. They spends too much, and there's no economy at home. Do you guys catch that little bit though? Like when the father finally, Sir Walter Elliot finally confesses to his daughter, like, hey, daughter, I am seriously in debt. Help me think of some ways to, like, either stop spending so much, or like just measures that we can, like, pay off our bills, or like, yeah. What did the girl do? Elizabeth went and said, let me think of what I can do. And the first things she cut were, one, charities, that is helping the poor in their neighborhood, and two was, well, this year, let's not refurbish, like put new furniture in our drawing room. And that's it. Basically, again, selfish, vain, rather than maybe cutting back on maybe having less clothes, or maybe keeping a more simple table, like not eating extravagant meals or whatever. She's like, no, let's just no longer give the needy in our neighborhood like food baskets so they can get by during like hard times. No, that's extra. We can do without. Let's just cut off that help to the poor. And this is a great sacrifice. Let's hold off on putting new furniture. Oh my gosh, yeah. So you get the idea of these two people, and they talked about the other two daughters in the family. We have Mary, who was married. Let me just pull up this thing. Mary, who has already been married, and she is the youngest of all the daughters. So first was Elizabeth, the eldest, then Anne, who we only heard like a very little bit, but she's the protagonist of the story. Anne, and then a son that, you know, was a stillborn, and then Mary. Mary is married. The other two eldest daughters are not married. So, So this is the basically introducing this book and what's going on with these characters. Let me know what you guys think about them. Let's see, do we have time for an extra chapter? It's 10:49. What do you guys think? Should we do another chapter? Oh yes, Little Butterfly says, remember, Anne doesn't need a gift. Oh my gosh, that's true. Yes, I forgot about that. No, I just momentarily. Yeah, Anne does not need a gift. They can definitely sacrifice her gift this year. That is so mean. Again, Anne is quiet, whereas they're showy and vain. She is, it's described here. Anne, with an elegance of mind and sweetness of character, which must have placed her high with any people of real understanding, was nobody. She was not appreciated by her father or sister. They did not listen to her advice. They didn't care whether what they chose to do was convenient to her. She was only Anne. Oh my goodness, our poor Anne. Yeah, so again, in between, you have to read in between the lines, kind of like to see see the state of affairs of our protagonist. Again, it seems that she's just blending into the background at home. However, she does have a friend in Lady Russell. Lady Russell is a widow. She has plenty of fortune, but she chose not to marry again. In fact, people expected Lady Russell and Anne Elliot's father to marry, but they just didn't. And I think that's for the best, because I'm sure that Lady Russell, if she had gotten married to Anne's father, then all her fortune would have gone over to him. Or it could have been forfeit, actually. Now that I think about it, maybe it would have been forfeit. No. All her fortune would have gone over to him, and she knows him, and she probably was like, I don't think I want to live with this kind of guy. And I am absolutely 100% behind that decision. Let's continue. Any questions you guys have? So that's basically the family life. We're now going to see the big question here that this book starts us off with: how are we gonna fix our situation? We live in this huge house, but we're riddled with debt. How are we gonna fix our situation? So I'm gonna read another chapter and we will see what is decided upon. And this will be the last chapter for today, of course. All right. One more sip of water. Blockshot says Anne is treated like she's just part of the inventory. Oh, owie. Aw. That's sad. She's a drag to them. Remember, Anne is not showy and beautiful like them. She has a different understated beauty, though. Or at least she used to have. Her father now considers her to be haggard. Yeah. Loving father, yeah. Okay, chapter 2. Mr. Shepherd, a civil, cautious lawyer, who, whatever might be his hold on his views on Sir Walter, would rather have the disagreeable prompted by anybody else, excused himself from offering the slightest hint, and only begged leave to recommend an implicit reference to the excellent judgment of Lady Russell, from whose known good sense he fully expected to have such resolute measures advised as he meant to see finally adopted. So here we have Mr. Shepherd, who is there's kind of like he oversees their affairs, but he's the kind of character that he's like, he'd rather not be the one to give hard news, basically a people pleaser. Just he would rather let Lady Russell take the brunt of whatever reaction the suggestions for economy will bring about. He's like, no, you break the news, tell them how bad it is, give them some ideas of what they could do. They're gonna be harsh to them, but I'd rather not take on the task of like suggesting that they actually like get on a really strict budget. So that's Mr. Shepherd, okay? He knows that Lady Russell is friend enough to be absolutely honest. So there we go. Mr. Shepherd. Wait. I already read that. Okay, Lady Russell. Lady Russell was most anxiously zealous on the subject, and gave it much serious consideration. She was a woman rather of sound than of quick abilities, whose difficulties in coming to any decision in this instance were great, from the opposition of two leading principles. She was of strict integrity herself, with a delicate sense of honor, but she was as desirous of saving Sir Walter's feelings, as solicitous for the credit of the family, as aristocratic in her ideas of what was due to them, as anybody of sense and honesty could well be. She was a benevolent, charitable good woman, and capable of strong attachments, most correct in her conduct, strict in her notions of decorum, and with manners that were held a standard of good breeding. Hold on a second, you guys. So, she's a pretty good mediator, I suppose, because she is also an aristocrat, and she really does mean the best for this family. But she also knows that, like, a fellow aristocrat is not going to like accept super strict measures. So she is really like worried and concerned. She's like, no, like a fellow aristocrat should not have to like beg. So she really gave a lot of thought to like some measures. So I think she might have struck some really good balance between economy and also keeping them safe, like helping them save face. So anyway, Lady Russell seems to be an okay lady, right? Well, we'll see. Continuing on. No, she's a good lady. She really is a good lady. Now, she had a cultivated mind and was generally speaking rational and consistent. But, oh, here we go. But she had prejudices on the side of ancestry. She had a value for rank and consequence which blinded her a little to the faults of those who possessed them. Herself a widow of only a knight, she gave the dignity of a baronet all its due, and Sir Walter, independent of his claims as an old acquaintance, an attentive neighbour, an obliging landlord, the husband of her very dear friend, the father of Anne and her sisters, was, as being Sir Walter in her apprehension, entitled to a great deal of compassion and consideration under his present difficulties. Ah, boy, they must retrench. That did not admit of a doubt. But she was very anxious to have it done with the least possible pain to him and Elizabeth. She drew up plans of economy, she made exact calculations, and she did what nobody else thought of doing. She consulted Anne, who never seemed considered by the others as having any interest in the question. She consulted, and in a degree was influenced by her in marking out the scheme of retrenchment which was at last submitted to Sir Walter. Every emendation of Anne's had been on the side of honesty against importance. She wanted more vigorous measures, a more complete reformation, a quicker release from debt, a much higher tone of indifference for everything but justice and equity. So Anne is like, if they had asked Anne, Anne would have been like, no, let's get rid of this debt quick. Anne was like, I don't care what people think. We have to do what's right is right. We have to pay all our debts. We can't just default on them. We have to pay them all. And if it means that we have to like really tighten our belts, we will tighten our belts. So that was Plan's idea. That's Plan's idea, and she helped Lady Russell with the plan that Lady Russell came up with. If we can persuade your father to all this, said Lady Russell, looking over her paper, much may be done. If we will adopt these regulations, in 7 years he will be clear, and I hope we may be able to convince him and Elizabeth that Kellynch Hall has a respectability in itself which cannot be affected by these reductions, and that the true dignity of Sir Walter Elliot will be very far from lessened in the eyes of sensible people by his acting like a man of principle. What will he be doing, in fact, but what very many of our first families have done, or ought to do? There will be nothing singular in his case, and it is singularity which often makes the worst part of our suffering, as it always does of our conduct. I have great hope of our prevailing. We must be serious and decided, for after all the person who has contracted debts must pay them, and though a great deal is due to the feelings of the gentleman and the head of the house, like your father, there's still more due to the character of an honest man. This was the principle on which Anne wanted her father to be proceeding, his friends to be urging him. She considered it as an act of indispensable duty to clear away the claims of creditors with all the expedition which the most comprehensive retrenchments could secure, and saw no dignity in anything short of it. She wanted it to be prescribed, and felt as a duty. She rated Lady Russell's influence highly, and as to the severe degree of self-denial which her own conscience prompted, she believed there might be little more difficulty in persuading them to a complete, rather to half a reformation. Her knowledge of her father and Elizabeth inclined her to think that the sacrifice of one pair of horses would be hardly less painful than of both, and so on, though the whole list of Lady Russell's too gentle, to gentle reductions. How Anne's more rigid requisitions might have been taken is of little consequence. Lady Russell's had no success at all, could not be put up with, were not to be borne. What? Every comfort of life knocked off? Journeys, London, servants, horses, table, contractions and restrictions everywhere. To live no longer with the decencies of even a private gentleman. No, he would sooner quit Kellynch Hall at once than remain in it on such disgraceful terms. Quit Kellynch Hall. The hint was immediately taken up by Mr. Shepherd, whose interest was involved in the reality of Sir Walter's retrenching, and who was perfectly persuaded that nothing would be done without a change of abode. Since the idea had been started in the very quarter which ought to dictate, he had no scruple, he said, in confessing his judgment to be entirely on that side. It did not appear to him that Sir Walter could materially alter his style of living in a house which had such a character of hospitality and ancient dignity to support. In any other place Sir Walter might judge for himself, and would be looked up to as regulating the modes of life, in whatever way he might choose to model his household. Sir Walter would quit Kellynch Hall, and after a few days more of doubt and indecision, the great question of whither he should go was settled, and the first outline of this important change made out. There had been 3 alternatives: London, Bath, or another house in the country. All Anne's wishes had been for the latter, a small house in their own neighbourhood, where they might still have Lady Russell's society, still be near Mary, and still have the pleasure of sometimes seeing the lawns and groves of Kellynch, was the object of her ambition. But the usual fate of Anne attended her in having something very opposite from her inclination fixed on. She disliked Bath, and did not think it agreed with her, and Bath was to be her home. Sir Walter had, at first, thought more of London, but Mr. Shepherd felt that he could not be trusted in London, and had been skilful enough to dissuade him from it, and made Bath preferred. It was a much safer place for a gentleman in his predicament. He might there be important at comparatively little expense. 2 material advantages of Bath over London had of course been given all their weight: its more convenient distance from Kellynch, only 50 miles, and Lady Russell spending some part of every winter there, and to the very great satisfaction of Lady Russell, whose first views on the projected change had been for Bath, Sir Walter and Elizabeth were induced to believe that they should lose neither consequence nor enjoyment by settling there. Lady Russell felt obliged to oppose her dear aunt's known wishes. It would be too much to expect Sir Walter to descend into a small house in his own neighbourhood. Anne herself would have found the mortifications of it more than she foresaw, and to Sir Walter's feelings they must have been dreadful. And with regard to Anne's dislike of Bath, she considered it as a prejudice and mistake, arising, first, from the circumstance of her having been 3 years at school there, after her mother's death, and secondly, from her happening to be not in perfectly good spirits the only winter which she had afterwards spent there with herself. So Anne hates Bath, and they're gonna live in Bath. So she's like, Anne is like, because Anne, when Anne's mother died, she was sent off to school for 3 years. So, oh my gosh, like poor Anne, she had been a young girl, and rather than be allowed to stay home and grieve, now she had to be sent to school, finishing school, and spend all that time away from home, mourning her mother, being sad. So Bath is terrible. And then something happened, and spent 1 winter in Bath. Like a few years later, she spent 1 winter in Bath, but she was just absolutely miserable. And we can later on we can kind of guess what it was, why she was miserable that winter. So there's no good associations with Bath, and that's where they're gonna go. Lady Russell was fond of Bath, in short, and disposed to think it must suit them all. And as to her young friend's health, By passing all the warm months with her at Kellynch Lodge, every danger would be avoided, and it was, in fact, a change which must do both. Okay, a change which must do both health and spirits good. Anne had been too little from home, too little seen. Her spirits were not high. A larger society would improve them. She wanted her to be more known. The undesirableness of any other house in the same neighborhood for Sir Walter was certainly much strengthened by one part, and a very material part of the scheme, which had been happily engrafted on the beginning. He was not only to quit his home, but to see it in the hands of others, a trial of fortitude which stronger heads than Sir Walter's have found too much. Kellynch Hall was to be let. That is, they were going to lease it, so somebody else can move in it, and they can pay rent to them, and it's cool. This, however, was a profound secret, not to be breathed beyond their own circle. Sir Walter could not have borne the degradation of being known to design letting his house. Mr. Shepherd had once mentioned the word advertise, but never dared approach it again. Sir Walter spurned the idea of its being offered in any manner, forbade the slightest hint of being dropped of his having such an intention, and was only on the supposition of his being spontaneously solicited by some most unexceptionable applicant on his own terms, and as a great favor, that he would let it at all. This man is so... This man, you guys. He's like, don't let people know that I am putting my house for rent. I am letting somebody most kindly live in my house. That's not the same thing as putting it for rent, okay? How quick come the reasons for approving what we like. Lady Russell had another excellent one at hand, for being extremely glad that Sir Walter and his family were to remove from the country. Elizabeth had been lately forming an intimacy which she wished to see interrupted. It was with the daughter of Mr. Shepherd, who had returned, after an unprosperous marriage, to her father's house, with the additional burden of 2 children. She was a clever young woman, who understood the art of pleasing. The art of pleasing, at least, at Kellynch Hall, and who had made herself so acceptable to Miss Elliot as to have been already staying there more than once, in spite of all that Lady Russell, who thought it a friendship quite out of place, could hint of caution and reserve. Remember, you guys, Lady Russell only cares about, well, she's a good lady, but she really is biased. Like, she's like, you commoner, where's your title? If you don't have a title, you are not fit to be seen around my little friends. So she's like, there's this, Elizabeth has a new friend, and this new friend is not just any new friend. She is a divorcee. She was married, she got divorced, she has kids. Who knows where the kids are at, because this lady comes over and she has stayed for a prolonged period of time at Kellynch Hall, and she's a great friend of Elizabeth's. And Lady Russell does not approve of this friendship. So she's like, if they move away from the neighborhood, they will definitely, this will definitely separate Elizabeth from this other woman. So she's eager for them to, just get out. Well, to go to a place where they can live a dignified aristocratic life and still save us, in a way that's economical. And anyway, so but let's see more about this friend. Getting a little bit of extra water, hold on. Lady Russell, indeed, had scarcely any influence with Elizabeth, and seemed to love her, rather because she would love her than because Elizabeth deserved it. She had never received from her more than outward attention, nothing beyond the observances of complaisance, had never succeeded in any point which she wanted to carry against previous inclination. She had been repeatedly very earnest in trying to get Anne included in the visit to London, sensibly open to all the injustice and all the discredit of the selfish arrangements which shut her out, and on many lesser occasions had endeavored to give Elizabeth the advantage of her own better judgment and experience, but always in vain. Elizabeth would go her own way, and never had she pursued it in more decided opposition to Lady Russell than in this selection of Mrs. Clay, turning from the society of so deserving a sister to bestow her affection and confidence on one who ought to have been nothing to her but the object of distant civility. From situation, Mrs. Clay was, in Lady Russell's estimate, a very unequal, and in her character she believed a very dangerous companion, and a removal that would leave Mrs. Clay behind and bring a choice of more suitable intimates within Miss Elliot's reach was therefore an object of first-rate importance. End of chapter, you guys. So again, this Mrs. Clay is not to be. Mrs. Russell doesn't like her. Okay, she's like, I don't like this woman. Get her away from. Like, if we move to Bath, we will get rid of her. Again, she is of the opinion that Elizabeth doesn't need another companion. She doesn't need a Mrs. Clay to hang out with her. She's like, Elizabeth, you have a younger sister. Anne she is very smart. She is sensible. Why can't you just hang out with her? Like, you're very lucky in Anne. Like, why can't you just like hang out with Elizabeth, like with Anne? And remember, it says here that every spring, Elizabeth and her father, they go to London, but they don't take Anne with them. So Anne has been, like, all her life, she has been in relative obscurity. Like, she hasn't, I guess she's out because, marriageable age, you have to be out in society, but their society in the country it's just not a lot of singles, not a lot of pickings. So Anne hasn't had the opportunity to go and meet eligible bachelors, right? Whereas if they had taken Anne to London during the spring, Anne would probably have been able to meet people and to make friends. As it is, poor Anne, she's just like, eh. So far, somebody told me, somebody told me that they're reading this book, and so far they're like, poor Anne. And indeed, yes, poor Anne, you guys. Oh, golly. What do you guys think of Anne? What do you guys think of her family? How do you think that this stay in Bath will affect them all? Do you guys think that will be enough for their family to be debt-free within a few years? And obviously there's a lot to talk about the society at this time. So one of the things that came up as I was reading was Miss Lady Russell. Lady Russell places a very kind of like too much weight on rank. She is the wife of a knight. So in the peerage, in the English peerage of the day, you have like very, very high ranking. You have the dukes and I don't know, whatever, marquis or whatever. Was there marquis? Maybe marquis. I don't think there's are there marquis? There were marquis. Okay, or marquises or whatever. Yeah, marquises. Anyway, so you have like very high ranked viscounts, all these in the top, and then you have the lower end. And the lower end, there was the baronets, and then there was a knight. So the lowest of all the hierarchy of the peerage nobility, the knights were at the bottom, then the barons, then viscounts and marquesses, whatever, and dukes and so on and so forth. So she's basically in awe of the Elliot family. Their rank is higher than her, so she really does kind of like cuddle them a bit. She should have she's like, they shouldn't be made to like suffer indignity. So while she is a sensible woman, that is her failing. She does have a failing, very marked. She puts too much emphasis on rank. So that makes us think like, okay, so maybe this Mrs. Clay that she's very against, maybe the woman is a pretty nice lady and she's just being unreasonable and whatnot. So we're gonna see. We're gonna see, and you guys will make up your minds. Because there will be another mention of Mrs. Clay in the future. Just, I guess, spoiler. I don't know. They wouldn't have introduced the Mrs. Clay if she wasn't gonna be included in the plot. Yes, Lady Russell is a little bit of an elitist, a little bit, Crusher. Yes, Time Lord Boyd says all the posh people were back then. Yeah, exactly. Even today, from what I hear, is people, they are like over on the other side of the pond. It's still a thing, you guys. People are still so like mesmerized with like, ooh, the high society, and people read the high society columns or like the peerage and what this Mark is doing or what this Duke is doing and what the princess of this is doing. So that's very important over there. And here in America, we have it. We don't have a noble system, but in several other respects, we do have our own idols. So, I mean, how else could you explain the Taylor Swift phenomenon? I guess the people we love, admire, and stuff like that. The elitists are the billionaires, the Silicon Valley peeps, the entertainers. So, like, I'm not saying that. I'm just commenting. I'm not saying that here in America we're better. No. We have our own things, you guys. I will admit we have our own things. Elitist. So yeah. So Crusher says, if this story took place in Bookworm universe, Anne would be a struggling lay noble. She would indeed. She would be a struggling lay noble. Not quite at the like her family, like if it were up to her, she would be like, okay, let's take on Philine's family way of life. Like, we only need a cook like in the morning, and we can warm up our food ourselves, serve ourselves in the afternoon and at night, or something like that. She would definitely be trying to like take very strict measures. She would applaud the economy practiced in Philine's household. And it's not like, you guys, it's not like Anne is a cheapskate. Like, we're gonna meet her. Like, this is all just hearsay. We haven't actually gotten into her thoughts, into her feelings. It's just like we get it second hand. So we will meet her a little later, okay? So don't worry, we're getting to it. I just wanted to explain to you guys this family situation. Okay, so Time Lord says, well, not me, but some folk in the UK are. Yeah, this is just a generalization. I'm not into like celebrities either. I'm just saying, like, as a general rule, like, we're just kind of like, we admire, we're just wired that way. We're made to admire other people. I guess it's normal, it's natural, but it doesn't, it's just how we are. But yeah, so let's see. I think I missed some comments. Time Lord said earlier on, I think I need Anne to advise on my money. Oh boy, don't we all? Yes, indeed. So here's basically the advice. Pay off all your credit card bills. Once you have paid off all your credit card bills, start putting away monthly on a Roth IRA account some money. Put it there. And then I don't know, that's the only thing I remember from my finance class, and that's I save Roth IRAs. For those of us who can't afford a house and build equity, I guess we're screwed. So just save money. And I've been trying to eat out less, so maybe eating out less would help as well. And then look online for coupons. Coupons are also good. I'm not a coupon person, but my sister is. She has like her CBS app or whatnot. Dude, my sister is a beast when it comes to couponing. She is so good at it. Like, she's like, and I have this 30% off and this $5 off and then this thing. So like in the end, this shampoo that was like $22 ended up being $3.99. I was like, good for you. I don't know how she does it, but I'm like, good. I have been pretty bad about using coupons and stuff. But I have my sister to remind me that, there's deals going on. Also, but here's the other thing. The other drawback is if you get too much into deals and discounts, you guys, you tend to like be lured in by sales and you end up paying more. So for example, on the opposite end of the spectrum, she has all the apps on her phone and they remind her that she has these rewards coming up, and if she spends this much money, she gets this much off or free shipping. And you can go crazy if you're not careful. You end up spending money you wouldn't have spent otherwise if you hadn't, been lured in by a sale. So just, it's word to the wise there. Try couponing, but be sure that you also are careful not to be lured into spending more than you would have. So that is some I'm not Anne, but this is Magpie's Magpie's rules on saving money. Oh, and buy generic brand when you can. All right. Cat Asterisk says, aren't these sisters the same names as in Pride and Prejudice? You know what? That's a good point. So we had in Pride and Prejudice, for those of you who have read it, or who haven't read it, whatever. We have, I think it was 5 daughters. We had, the oldest was Jane, then it was Elizabeth, then it was Mary. So that's already 2 names. Then we had Lydia, and then we had Catherine or Kitty. So we have two of the Bennet girls are lent their names here. We have here, we have a Mary, and we have an Elizabeth. So there you go. Let's see. Good point though, as Kat. Of course, Bath is where Jane Austen was from. Really? I forget. Really? I don't even know. Huh. Interesting. I didn't even realize that was where Jane Austen was born. Crusher asks, Magpie, if you were an aristocratic in today's time, what would you spend all your money on? Charities. Honestly, you guys, right now, I am seriously considering buying the lottery right now. My church is right now going through some really hard times. We have to raise $82,000 to deal with the termites. It is a beautiful church, you guys, with wood and like these huge wood beams and like it's like these beautiful stained glass windows. And we are right now going through trying to pay, like, to get structural, like, if termites are after these structural beams, you need to get those fixed. So we're trying to pay off, like, gather enough money to pay off the structural fixing and the termite extermination. So that's like the first thing that came to my mind, you guys. I would be just like, here, you want money? Bam! Have the $100,000 needed to fix the church. Come on, and then we'll paint the children's wing and fix the leaks and get some new AV system, because I'm an AV girly. So I'm like, we need like new speakers, new monitors, some new LED screens, some better cameras. I would love for some, like, yeah, anyway, so that's the first thing that came to my mind. But probably after that is I would spend it on a freaking house here in my hometown. I don't want to move from my hometown, but if I want to buy a house one day, I would probably have to move out to the boonies, you guys. And I don't want that. I love my hometown. I want to live in my hometown. I want to die in my hometown. So that's probably what I would spend it on. Charities, a house where I can like live with my mama and my papa and we can just live happily. I don't know, just small things, I guess. I don't know. What would you guys do if you had like a lot of money as an aristocrat? I know probably there should be better ways of using my money, but that's what I think about. Like, I don't have any great wishes, needs, or desires. That's all I want, you guys. Just being able to afford a house. What can I get? I'm a millennial, and we have no houses around here, or at least houses that we can afford. Like, we have a 3-room, 2-bathroom house just was listed down the street from my apartment building. Dudes, it was like $900,000, you guys. $900,000 for a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house with a attached garage, a lawn, and I don't even think there was a pool in the backyard, which is just as good. I would never buy a house with a pool, ever. Anyway, what would you guys spend your money on? Crusher says, I would move out of Cali. How dare you move out of California? How dare you, Crusher? Crusher, you would leave California, the best state in the entire 50? Crusher, you would not return to your hometown, Crusher? We could be neighbors again, Crusher. You used to live in Southern California. I think we talked earlier. I do have some neighbors though, like bookworm neighbors that live in SoCal. Maybe we should do like a reunion one day. We could just be like, hey, I'm gonna go to the beach. I'm gonna stake out like some fire pits. I'll bring some wood. I'll bring stuff for like bring some wood, bring stuff for some s'mores. And we'll just hang out there, you know, like have some lunch, and then when the sun comes down, we'll get the bonfire going, we'll eat s'mores, we'll roast corns, we'll get some hot dogs or whatever, we'll eat, we'll just talk. Maybe we'll read some bookworm. I don't know. I would love that, but there's nobody around here that we can do something like that. So you guys, I live in a fantastical world. I make up these strange delusions. I would love that, you guys. That would be so much fun, especially in the summer here. But yeah, Crusher says, I will move out of Cali to another state, buy land, start a sustainable business, raising buffalo or other animals. Okay, that sounds amazing, but you could also buy the ranch and still live in California, you know, commute in your private jet. No, actually no. Private jets, they're terrible for the environment. So, you know what? I get it. That's if you have a business in mind, you know what? Do it, Crusher. I hope one day you receive, you know, a windfall and you're able to do these things. So California will miss you. These chapters, says Crusher, could be called From Riches to Rags or How to Budget as Old Money. Yes. Yes, indeed. Let's see. Time Lord Boy says later on, there's a complete tourist trade in London with the royals. It's crazy. Yeah, I can imagine. I hear that like there's like an entire like cult following of like what the royals do, what they were, where they're doing, and it's crazy because you guys remember when Kate Middleton was sick. I think she's still sick, the poor thing, and like the entire press went insane when she put out like just a picture celebrating Mother's Day or something like that, and oh my gosh, it was kind of like scary to see like just how they were like studying and analyzing the picture of a mother with her children. Oh my gosh. So it's insanitous, you guys. It's insanitous. So I mean, it's nice, you know, as like a little hobby. But at a certain point you have to put distance between you and your idols. I've always said that. Blockshort says, for those of us who can't afford a house, even having a bit of money doesn't help. Their houses got so expensive. Ooh, they're also expensive over in Europe, Blockshot. Oh man, yeah. Property taxes are insane. And then if you inherit a house, then you have to pay inheritance taxes. And only old money people know how to play around with the system. They know how to transfer goods and whatever, like so that they don't have to pay taxes. Anyway. I would be hating on them, but honestly, like, good for you, like rigging the system. If I had access to rigging the system, I would definitely milk it for what it's worth. No. Kidding. If you are a billionaire, please pay your taxes. Thank you very much. Okay, I'm serious. For those, okay. Time Lord Boy says, have my own library in the house. Yes, that's the way to go. I would love, you guys, I would love to have enough space to finally be able to buy the physical copies of Bookworm. I cannot buy the manga or the books in hard copy because I don't have space. I only have like a few books left. Like I've been moving from place to place, and every time I move, I have to throw away stuff, books. And so what I have now is just a few precious tomes. And so I don't plan on buying the Bookworm books until I have a place that's like has way more space than what I have now. So I have an iPad, and my iPad has my entire collection of books right there, except for the book I want to do after we finish Persuasion. But by then I will have done the ebook, so you guys will be able to follow it. It'll be great. I promise to do my best, even if I have to do all, I don't know, 200 pages of it by hand. No. I'll see. Crusher says, the weather is nice in LA, but land is cheaper elsewhere. Yes. So if you want to know information about California, the weather in Southern California, at least in my opinion, is nice, especially if you get closer to the beach. Rent is crazy expensive. Especially what I've heard right now is in LA, it has rent control. So even like there's some apartments, if they're built before 1979, there's such a thing as called as rent control apartments, where the rent is probably not going to be as expensive as it is for newer apartments. So that's LA County, Orange County, and other places. There's other places in Southern California that don't have rent control. We are basically like, the law says, they can't raise, every year your landlord can't raise the rent more than 5% plus the increase in something, or 10%. So, I don't know, excuse me, I'm not a lawyer. All I know is that this year, my landlord raised my rent 8.5%, and I am hating it, you guys. Because with this inflation, with this economy, that means that I have to work far more than I had to do before. Like before, I could just chill a little, take some breather in between projects. But now I have to really hustle, you guys. I really have to hustle just to make ends meet some months. So, I mean, it's not bad. Like I'm not going to go homeless anytime soon because with Pedro and Dios, like, thanks to the grace of God, who always takes care of me. But like, I feel for people who are like working really low paying jobs, you guys. It's really sad. It's our society. Gosh, you guys, I don't know. I don't want to leave you guys depressed. I just want you guys to be thankful. Like, no matter where you are at, I hope that, you know, things work out for you. You know, it's let's be optimistic about the future. Maybe one day we will be able to own our houses and build equity, have our land where we can build and we can plant trees. I know I would love to plant, let's see, I would plant an avocado. I would plant lemons. I would plant a whole bunch of herbs. I would love to have an herb garden, and then like a little vegetable garden, and maybe keep some bees. I would love to keep like a beehive. I don't know. I just think that's a beautiful, beautiful hobby to do, to care for bees and stuff. I don't know. Delusions with Magpie. Okay, so Little Butterfly says, if I had money, I would travel the world. Ooh, yes. Any particular countries you want to see? Crusher says, there's nothing really tying me down to Cali. I would need a good reason like family. Oh, I see. Yeah, makes sense. If you're, yeah, I get it. Because if you have like family and stuff, the kids will want to stay in their school and your spouse's work probably. So yeah, it's a good time. If you are single, you have the ability to just move out and do the thing, follow a new opportunity, do it. This is now the time. Yeah, Crusher, I will no longer judge you for saying you want to leave California. You will be missed though. A little butterfly, oh, let's see, yeah, would travel the world. And then Time Lord Voices think there needs a buffalo farm in LA. Set up a buffalo farm in LA. Oh, we'll see. I don't think they would allow it though. Would they? How would you bring the buffalo from from some out-of-state place here? Interesting logistics there. Time Lord Voices, no, you guys have Harry and Meghan in LA now. Yes, we do. Then they are serving looks. Last time I saw them doing their things. Like they look magnificent, you guys. They look like they're living their best life. So I don't know what you guys' thoughts are on royals. I'm not into the whole drama thing. If they're happy, good for them. If their children are happy, good for them. So yeah, let them do their thing here in LA. Blockshirt says a news headline: rents on an all-time high and 1.9 million apartments are empty. I bet they're using them for freaking Airbnbs, you guys. The other day, you guys, I was watching, like, I like to follow random people on YouTube, and it's this guy who lives in his car, but once a week he will rent an Airbnb, like an entire like little house that has all the amenities. So that's where he does his laundry. That's where he like cleans everything in his car. You know, does all just a weekend or like 2 days in a house, just I guess to kind of like reset, because the rest of the time he's living in his car, you guys. And then we have people also on YouTube that are living in tiny homes, that are living in RVs, and they take a shower in their gym, they work at, you know, a cafe. And honestly, you guys, this might be like, ooh, content creation, how interesting. How you know, love to see people do creative ways to save money. This is so bad, you guys. I admire people for making the best of a bad situation. If you have to put up TikToks and live off, you know, vlogging, good for you, but this should not be the way that our society should be. People should not have to live on their cars. People should not have, if you have a job, your job should pay, like, it should be paying you enough to live in a, maybe not a lavish place, but at least our society should be set up so that people can afford to live in a modest place if they're working a modestly paying job. But now, no. Nowadays, you can't even afford a place to live, you guys. Oh my gosh, I'm getting ahead of myself. I know, like, I have a strict no political issue, but I don't know, just our society, you guys. I think I've spent a lot of time talking this time around, and I've had so much fun just talking to you guys. So anyway, let me just finish reading the comments. I don't want to continue talking about homelessness and and how things are expensive. I don't want to depress you guys, honestly. Buffalo burgers and steaks taste good. I never ate a buffalo burger and steak. Does it taste very different from just a regular cow? Red Tempest also says there are a couple of buffalo farms in Texas. And okay, so maybe one day Crusher will go, you know, drop in on Texas one day if his wishes come to fruition. Blockshot says getting buffaloes across the country with enough time, I would say walk them. Ooh, good luck, buddy. Good luck, buddy, getting them across state lines. And Red Tempest says that buffalo tastes amazing. Well, I am sure glad that you shared that with me. I probably will never eat buffalo because it's not very much available here in these parts, and also I'm vegetarian. But I'm not here to preach to you to become vegetarian. Honestly, I'm not. You eat what you need to eat. I eat what I need to eat. But go for it, brother. when I was still a meat eater and lover, one of my favorite things to do was to go to Korean barbecue and just barbecue the crap out of that beef. I would just like eat and eat and eat all the meat. In fact, I was a favorite with some guy friends because they were like, yeah, Magpie, like she's always cool to go to like to a Korean barbecue, because unlike other people, other girls, unfortunately, yeah, this is the other girls thing, unlike other girls, she's like not shy about like ordering more and just frying things up for everybody and for all of us. So I was like, get more of that delicious beef coming. We're here to eat beef and we're gonna get our money's worth. Anyway, those were the good old times. I have since changed what I eat, but I get it. There's meat is delicious. So you do you. Korean barbecue is delicious. To quote Joker, we live in a society, says Time Lord Boy. In fact, it is very much true. Also, Red Tempest says a buffalo is leaner and healthier. Okay, that's nice. We do have like concerns about like how eating a lot of red meat will spike your cholesterol. So if there's a better, healthier alternative to regular factory grown meat, factory like industrially raised meat, then good. Enjoy it. All right, everybody, I believe we have come to the end of this read along. It turned more into like Magpie talking things. I feel very chatty, I guess. So next week we will pick up where we finished in the book. We read 2 chapters, and we will pick up on chapter 3. I hope you are excited for it. Remember that we have a family that's spendthrift and vain, and they don't listen to Anne. So think about a person in your life like that, somebody that you have just ignored. And if they're nice people, drop a line and say hello, show them some love. Quiet people also need to be loved and appreciated. Trust me, I'm one of them. So that's why I'm so thankful that you guys are here and listening to my rants and listening to me read. So appreciate it, and I hope you have enjoyed it, and that you join me the next time. I'll see you guys on Wednesday morning. All this week, all our readings and stuff are going to take place in the morning. I have afternoon and evening commitments all this week and next week. Maybe next week. All this week for sure. So it's the way it's going to be. So see you Monday morning, probably around the same time, 10 a.m. I hope you enjoy today's read. If you are not watching live and watching the reread, I will see you then. Take care, and thank you so much for everything. Bye-bye.